Hoje foi que a perdi, mas onde já nem sei, me levo para o mar.
I know it's heavy. I want you to know that I understand. We got a lot to get right. The risk is too high. I see, believe me. Oh, don't think I don't know. Don't think I don't know. Strutting around with the weight of the world on my shoulders, strong, and the ocean in my eyes, heavy, carrying mountains and valleys, past hurts and rivers of tears. I know it's scary how there may be the one. I know it's heavy. I want you to know that I understand. We got a lot to get right. The risk is too high. I see, believe me.
Gone are the wasted days, procrastinating, sipping on juice, dreaming dreams that just fade. Kicking off shoes, running barefoot through the sand, twisting up grass into love, hearts and crest, painting a picture with clouds in my mind. Holding your hand without fear, what might I never touch, consequence was the word. All those ways we forgot. We used to run steady, we used to run steady, we used to run steady, we used to run steady. And all of these ways we forgot for today. We used to run steady, we used to rock. See people say, yes, away. And all these ways we forgot for today. Away. We used to run steady, 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 we used to run, we used to run steady, 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 we used to run, we used to run.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the big moment we've all been waiting for. Ladies and gentlemen, place your turntable in front of your guests.
Set the volume control in your stereo system at the preferred listening level.
Ladies and gentlemen, beat rock, beat rock, beat rock, beat rock. Girls love the way you feel. Beat rock. It's time to be like this. Beat rock. Cold rockin' it.
Sergeant SB, Slaughter Pete Rock of Gibraltar.
Make a little beat. All of these days know that I am. Ladies and gentlemen, this meet and greet with a thunderous round of applause. I'm talking about none other than beat rock. Cold rockin' it.
Sergeant SB, Slaughter Pete Rock.
You can never measure.
Sergeant SB, Pete Rock.
Of the most popular demanded.
Sergeant SB,
Beat rock.
His talent is unique. His music is universal.
Devastator beat creator.
Peace, everybody. What is going down? Welcome to Salons, a cultural space that celebrates excellence, unity, and the spirit of joy through an unapologetically Black lens. You know what it is, with a special focus on brilliant artists from all walks of life. As always, I'm your host, Psalm, coming to you live and direct from Piscataway land, aka Silver Spring. And on the digital ones and twos is my homie, the man, my co-host, Nick the Wonder. Nick, was popping?
Peace. Always a pleasure to be in the same virtual space with your song.
Word up. Hey, I would be remiss if I didn't give a shout out and a big thanks to Jeremy Hunter, who designed that title sequence.
Come on.
So now,
number one.
You know, I feel like we kind of elevating right now. You know what I'm saying?
You know you made it when you got a title sequence.
You know what I'm saying? I feel like it's like a real show right now. You know what I'm saying? But shout outs to Jeremy, man. Actor, graphic designer, musician, you know what I'm saying? Overall cool guy. So big thanks. What's going on with you, man? Hey, I'm loving the vibes that you're spinning today, man.
Thank you, brother. A little bit of Pete Rock and then some other stuff. Start off with some Brazilian flair, you know.
I peeped that. Nice, and keep it international. You know what I'm saying?
That's what we do. So we international.
Yeah, you put some extra flavor in it. Maybe inspired by our guests, because our guests today are phenomenal. But before we introduce them, we want to give a shout out to our Black-owned food partner. So folks know that for each episode, we shout out a different Black-owned restaurant here in the DMV. You know, we highlight those organizations that uplift our community as well, because supporting the Black Lives Matter movement is, you know, not only about raising your voice and marching, but it's about also showing love and supporting these Black businesses.
Please,
so
let your dollar circulate.
For real. So today I am enjoying food from Bete Ethiopian Restaurant and Cafe in Silver Spring, Maryland. I'll be getting down with their veggie special combination. Nick, what are you eating today? Where are you eating from?
Keep it a little vegan too. I did the Sunrise Caribbean restaurant here on Georgia Avenue, and I got them curry peas and potatoes, chickpeas.
Word up.
Some cabbage. We're gonna get it in a minute.
Cool. Yeah, I'm gonna have to try them out because I've never actually gone there, so I'm gonna definitely have to hit them up.
Likewise. So please support everybody.
That's right. So check out Beta Ethiopian and Sunrise Caribbean's info in the comments and get your order in this weekend. And let's keep supporting our local Black businesses. So today's guests, these are two like supernovas, yo.
Supernovas, literally.
Yeah, like for real. So to me, it's just a beautiful thing that they've like come together to create. Today's guests is Universes. Universes is a national ensemble theater company of multidisciplinary writers and performers of color who fuse theater, poetry, dance, jazz, hip-hop, politics, down-home blues, and Spanish boleros to create moving, challenging, and entertaining works for the stage. The group breaks the traditional theatrical bounds to create its own brand of theater. And later on in the episode, we're going to give you a sneak peek, but here they are. Let's give it up. Let's give it up. Yeah, what's up? A true honor and a pleasure. So, you know, thank y'all for doing this. Before we get to our conversation, we're going to go ahead and do our mental health drink break. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So at home, please go ahead and grab your drinks, and Mildred and Steven, grab yours, and I'm gonna actually grab mine right around the corner, so I'll be right back with the quickness.
Hey, what you got there?
I got sparkling ice coconut pineapple water.
Sound Islands. And what you got?
Yes.
I got the blackberry ginger ale.
Can't go wrong.
You know.
What you got?
Okay, man, I got this is my go-to, man. I had to keep this joint on ice. This is my ginger beer. You know what I'm saying? Reed's ginger beer, man.
Reed's the best one.
Yeah, I had to keep it chilly. That's why I had to go ahead and get this joint. But Steve, what you drinking, brother?
I am drinking sparkling ice coconut pineapple water.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
My father hit me this.
What's up?
My father hit me up to this.
Oh, word up. Yeah, because that sounds like something that you would get specifically either in New York or in the islands. You know what I'm saying?
That's what I said. Yep.
Well, my people are from the island, so.
Oh, word up. Where?
We from Antigua.
Hey, come with it.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll talk about that too, because there's so many Caribbean connections that run through hip hop, man. That it's kind of wild in terms of the founders and even the next generations and hip hop theater. Even a lot of cats, are actually have those roots from the West Indies, man. So that's what's up. So
I'm holding it down for Puerto Rico in the Caribbean.
Hey, come on,
all day. Yo, so this is like home to me right now, man. So we definitely gonna have a good time today. But I want us to toast up. I was inspired by y'all to dedicate this toast to the spirit of love. And I actually also came across this Che Guevara quote. Che Guevara said, "At the risk of seeming ridiculous, let me say that the true revolutionary is guided by great feelings of love." You know what I'm saying? So y'all as like a revolutionary crew, one that's infused with love, man, we got to toast up the spirit of love. So to love.
To love.
Word up. All right. So at home, as we get the salon started, you know, we're chatting with Mildred and Steven. I hope that you get inspired to ask questions. Please do put your questions in the chat. On Facebook or YouTube, and then we'll answer a few of those at the end of our conversation. So let's start off actually with where you got your food from. So we know about the drinks right now, but we like to support our Black businesses. You know.
Yes.
We're currently in Ashland, Oregon. And we have to do a little searching to like find the Black businesses out. Yeah.
Word up.
But this is from Northwest Pizza and Pasta, locally owned, just a couple of blocks from us. We are they keep us fed. They keep us New York up in here. They keep us New York.
And it's a brother out here with a pizza shop. You know what I mean? So it's really dope to see that and support him. And so, you know, we try to, you know, when we can, bounce over to him and support his business.
That's what's up. That's what's up. So what brought y'all out there? That's a long way from NYC. You know what I'm saying?
Well, first we were by the Orange Shakespeare Festival in 2009. My dog is coughing. That's what you hear. Okay.
No worries.
So in 2009, we were commissioned by the Oregon Shakespeare Festival to create a play for the American Revolution's U.S. history cycle here, and that's where our journey for creating Party People began. And then we came here in 2012 to actually, you know, put the show up. And you wanna pick up the reason why we stayed is not necessarily because of the Oregon Shakespeare Festival or theater, but because of this.
Yeah. So we have a son who was 12 at the time. And we had to put our son in the middle school here. And the contract was for 10 months. And so we put him in the middle school. On the second day of school, I pull up in the car and he's standing in the middle of the field staring at the mountains. So I kind of walk up to him and I'm standing next to him looking at what he's staring at. And I'm like, yo, what's up? And he goes, can we stay out here? And I was like, word? And he was like, can we just stay here? Like, the school that he was in New York, his the playground was the teacher's parking lot. Yeah, he like said, it's beautiful out here. Can we just stay? And we have been dragging him. Well, he's been on the road with us since he was born. He's been all over the country. On tour with us, and he asked for this. So we were like, you know what? Why don't we just stay here? So we moved all of our operations and just moved out here to support him. You know what I mean? Like, he wants to be here. It's a different environment. The schools were a little better out here that he was going to be into. So we're like, well, you know, let's just do that. And it's cool. It's quiet. You know what I mean? The Oregon Shakespeare Festival is here. So there's an artistic community that we're around. And, you know, our son still likes it here. So we just decided to just chill.
But we kind of like, it's still like a drop spot. We always consider ourselves nomads, and even no matter where we live, we're always touring and traveling, and so we're always home in New York, and, you know, but we come home here too, until it changes and until we want to leave, you know.
Yeah, but it was just a commitment. It was a commitment to him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And listening, hearing that voice say, "Can we stay?"
That's beautiful, and then just that y'all have the resources to make it happen. You know what I'm saying? Because
we didn't.
You know,
but you made it happen. I mean,
we figured it out. I mean, in terms of, like, you know, the Oregon Shakespeare Festival, you know, at least provided us with housing to the end of our contract. And then
in 2012,
and then we had to figure it out afterwards. So to be honest with you, I looked on Craigslist and there was a house on Craigslist that you can rent, and we drove around and, you know, we saw it and we pulled up and was like, oh, this looked cool, and you know, we stayed. So it's really,
and it's cheaper than living in New York. It's hard to go back even. Like, it's like, where do we, you know, how do you pay for that kind of a rent? You know,
word up.
It's not easy.
Yeah. I love this idea of, like, you say, okay, well, the contract was up for certain amount of time, and then you made it happen. You figured out a way. You hustled it, you know what I'm saying, and figured it out. So can y'all talk about the environment that each of you grew up in and how that environment has prepared you to navigate the theater landscape? Because you have navigated it so beautifully. Like, it's so fly to me, because y'all are soulful, cool, but then your careers, you know what I'm saying, you've ascended, you've made it happen. So how did your environment growing up, how did that help you to actually do that?
Well, I grew up I was born and raised on the Lower East Side of Manhattan back in the days when Alphabet City was Alphabet City, y'all. Okay? Don't get this wrong. Don't get it twisted. So basically, Avenue D was where I made my life up until like high school, and when I left to college, you know, I left from there, from Jacob Reese Projects. That's where I'm from.
Word up.
They call it houses. We know it's projects.
Word up.
And then I went to Bard College from there, which is where I met Steve, and then after that, for most of my life, more than even I lived on the Lower, I was living in the South Bronx. So, you know, I'll let Steve jump in so that then we can kind of meet up, right? So I was on the Lower East Side, growing up, raised there in that environment during the heroin epidemic, AIDS epidemic, you know, Field in the Field, Alphabet City. Where then I got this opportunity to, you know, check out a Bard College, and that was a crazy route. You know, like we always say, we have gatekeepers or with sponsors, right? So there's sponsors in our life that open doors and kind of say, hey, why don't you look at this? I would have never dreamt of leaving the Lower East Side or New York City to go to like Bard College, but that door opened up and I walked through it.
It's beautiful.
Steve? And I was born and raised in the South Bronx.
Yeah.
I grew up in Forest Projects. I grew up in the projects. Fat Joe, Digging in the Crates crew, Lord Finesse, and I say it with love. He was the neighbor. He was the paper boy. You know, he would deliver papers on Sundays. You know, hustling. And you know, I am old enough to remember the early days of hip hop. I'm old enough to remember when hip hop was literally just in the Bronx, where I had cousins in Brooklyn. I was saying, we're doing this in the Bronx, and they didn't know what I was talking about. So I'm old enough to remember that. So seeing the beginning stages of equipment being set up, watching Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, when I was growing up, they used to hang out down the hill from me. So they were literally just sort of driving around. They were the first people I seen in sheepskin coats on. Summertime, they had sheepskin coats on. Seeing the early days of hip hop, of them hooking up the sound to the light pole and having 20 extension cords going into somebody's project building. I've seen all of that, and that type of sort of community and culture and music and the blendings of culture is the same way, or that same feeling and aesthetic that we carry with us when we tour as a company and when we go into communities. It's the same type of vibe. You know what I mean? Like that type of people just trying to make it, and you got to know everybody. You know, when you living in, you know, in the neighborhood around the block, you kind of know people, how to kind of move around.
You know, the mayors.
You know, the mayors, people who, you know, like there's those folks who official titles, and there are those who are the neighborhood people. And, you know, I took it upon myself to kind of know everybody. So that way of moving around, just moving through the neighborhood, just to survive, is how, in terms of our career and how we strategically move around, is the same approach that we have. The same vibe.
Word up. And Mildred, for you, what was your introduction to hip hop? Because you were also in the epicenter of it, but how did you actually get to sort of create in a hip hop aesthetic?
Well, I grew up listening mostly to Spanish music, and my first language is Spanish, right? So for me, it was a different journey in. And growing up, the thing about, it's really interesting because here on the West Coast, people don't really understand why we're even together, right? It's like people are like, what? You know?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Of course, Puerto Rican and Black folks, we're together. And when we first got here, people couldn't really understand that. And it shows me like how original that life that we live on the East Coast is. And especially when you're growing up in the projects, you know, we're all there. You know, you have Blacks and Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, you got like island folks, you got people from everywhere. But in the projects in particular, there was never really a divide as far as like, you know, oh, well, you know, you could hear the salsa music and the boleros playing in competition with like, you know, gospel music and now hip hop music. So it started to kind of like, you know, you could hear it coming up the heater pipes, you know, you could hear it in your environment and everywhere that you were. And obviously as a young girl, you know, going to school, like you start seeing the culture starts to spill in to where you're from. I have family in the South Bronx. And it's funny because back in the days, they'd be like, don't go to the Bronx. That's like my family would be like, don't go to the South Bronx. But we would go and visit my uncle, and you start seeing like this world that was just like so exciting and so like, you know, amazing. And you start like our clothing started to change, just the world around everything that we started to do together in the projects. You know, it was like a combination of those musics to the point where you didn't even realize where one began and one ended, right? So also the idea that there were so many Puerto Ricans, especially in the breakdance scene of hip hop.
Oh yeah.
so that was exciting to us because most of the kids in like my circle were spinning and they were popping and locking and doing all kinds of, so you start seeing it and recognizing what it is. So when we were able to have conversations later on with some of the hip hop, you know, breakers, you know, you're like, oh yeah, you know, actually once I heard that break dance is kind of like, you know, you tell side dance choreography and you put it on its side and you put it on its head and you put it on, you know, so the way that a lot of the Puerto Rican kids were learning this new aesthetic, this new thing. So it was all around us. Like, I don't remember when it wasn't there.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Because it was kind of coming from our DNA. Does that make any sense?
It totally does. And like my family's from Jamaica and my first cousin's mother's Puerto Rican. So because on my block, it's like, you know, Puerto Ricans were generally down the block. Then you had a like, you know, African American pocket, you know, then the Caribbean is Jewish and Polish across. I mean, It was New York. So, so it's hard for some people to sort of understand the relationship, particularly between Puerto Rican and Black. You know what I'm saying? Like, unless you grew up in it, you know, even the use of the N-word, like, and how that it's a very hip hop specific thing that some Puerto Ricans use it, and it's authentic. You know what I'm saying? Whether you want to judge it or not, they're from that culture. And we can have a whole other salon about that. You know what I'm saying? But growing up in it, you kind of understand it.
No doubt.
So how did you both get introduced to theater now? So you're in this hip hop world's urban environment, and then you gravitate towards theater. How did that happen?
So I mean, at Bard, we started.
Well, even me before that.
You before that? Okay,
I mean,
go for it.
For me, I used to dance on the street with a radio, with a box, and you know, like everybody else was doing. Just to do it, not even necessarily doing it for money, but just to do it. And we used to go down to 42nd Street all the time and go to where Broadway was. And when they would have, you know, be opening of a show, we would go and we would be out there and he'd make a little twos and fews. And this particular day, and I'm dating myself crazy, but Dreamgirls was opening.
Right.
Dated myself. So
put himself on blast.
Yes, not Beyonce Dreamgirls.
Right. Original
Dreamgirls. And we went out there and, you know, we were setting up our radio and the usher came out the side door and was like, yo, do y'all want to come inside? And we were like, inside? And he was like, come back on Wednesday afternoon. Be here at 1 o'clock. So we come, it was like a Saturday. We come back on Wednesday. He opened up the side door. It was like 4 of us. He said, go sit in the back row and shut up and be quiet and just listen. So we went in the back row. We sit in the back like this and the curtain opened and I was hooked after that. Because there it is. It was like full blast, full blown. And it was so authentically Black. And to be in a theater like that with that type of energy was coming across. And Jennifer Holliday, when she sang that song, it was church, and to be in the presence of church on Broadway with a mixed house of Black and white, I was really taken by that. Like, because I knew what church was. I'm like, oh, you could do that. Like, we can do that, and that is exactly what that usher wanted us to feel. What we felt like we can do that, and my whole journey has been like trying to figure out how to get that energy onto a theater stage.
And I think that actually you hit it right on the head. I think that I grew up a church girl. You know, I was Pentecostal. I was, you know, growing up with, you know, the world's kind of colliding and everything. And hip hop was church, right? So even when you go to hip hop events, you were like, it just felt like everybody was receiving the spirit. Like you just are full with each other and people are moving. And like, it was just so exciting. And like growing up, my first theater experience was Black and Blue, right? So that was like, you heard these voices coming up. I'm already sorry. So Black and Blue and Mama I Want to Sing were like the first two I actually saw as a young girl, and I saw these people singing and these voices just overpowering the space, and you could feel it. Like if you feel if you can feel theater, if you can feel whatever it is that you're doing, then, you know, you have to be creating some kind of church, right? It has to be spiritual experiences. And that's what I think that hip hop theater was. Everything that we were doing, hip hop, the hip hop movement, just like all of our life, everything we're, you know, all the people that we're around, we try to kind of create these spaces that are like church. You know, we're about to go there and we're about to like go as hard as we can until we feel everything we can.
That's what's up. And speaking of going hard, I mean, even in this pandemic, y'all have created like beautiful art. Like there's a video clip that that we have. Is that correct, folks? I'm talking to the producers now, you know. I think now would be a great time to sort of show the art, some of the art that universes have been creating in this pandemic moment. So you've sort of, is this a pivot for you right before we show this clip, which is an excerpt of a longer piece?
Mm-hmm.
Have you been creating art in the video medium, or is this like new territory for you?
This is new new in terms of us going video. We love the live performance, like we just being in communion with people. But since we're sort of, in quarantine, it's like, well, we got to keep working. We got to want our voices and our image to be out there. So Mildred really sat down and really kind of edited and really put the film part of it together. And, I did the poetry part. So this is new for us in terms of really kind of pushing ourselves that way, because again, we love the live element so much.
Yeah, I mean, I've always created like these marketing pieces, like from back in the days, like when we were doing The Point and all of that. Like we always had that, these tools available, but we never really felt like this is all we have. And right now in this vacuum, it felt like, wow, what else can we do to get this message across without having to be present or without even having to show our faces?
Yeah.
So voices.
Word up. All right. Well, let's go ahead and check out this excerpt of this clip.
Let's see.
Cage birds sing, we fly, we rage in seven. Cage birds sing, we fly, we rage in seven.
You didn't know that we would know your name. That your name, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, Elijah McClain, Rashard Brooks, George Floyd, will be added to that long list of brown bruised bodies treated to another round of mistreatment that grows with no expiration date in sight. You did not know that your passing would be videotaped, a sad reminder that I don't want to see, have already seen too many times, but just too many times too much. You did not know that your name, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, Elijah McClain, Rashard Brooks, George Floyd, will be another wake-up call in that long list of wake-up calls to a number that's been disconnected a long time ago. And now we do know your name. I wish it was on better terms. I wonder what you might have created, what conversations you were supposed to have that were interrupted. Bullets have a way of doing that. Knees have a way of doing that. Chokeholds have a way of doing that. And now we have the right to remain silent and to speak up and speak out and to say that enough is enough, is enough, is enough, is enough, and mean it and believe it and understand that Ahmaud Arbery.
Oh man, you were taking me, so that is just a portion of it, and it cuts off before Mildred comes in with vocals, which the audience, where can the audience see the whole thing? Because now they're going to want to see the whole joint.
Well, I think we have it on, it's on YouTube, it's on our Vimeo account, it's on I think it's on our website, so universonsonstage.com, or, find us on, we put it all over the place.
Yeah.
But it's definitely, I think we have it on YouTube and Facebook as well.
Mm-hmm. I was lucky enough to see the whole thing during a convening of playwrights and artistic directors for this most recent cohort for the Mellon Foundation's National Playwright Residency Program in partnership with HowlRound, which you're a part of, and I'm lucky to be a part of it too.
Yes.
And I tell you, man, after I saw that joint, I was like, these artists are really on fire. Like you've captured the present moment in such a beautiful and powerful way. How else has the pandemic affected your creativity aside from creating something that's so powerful like that? What else have you been creating, or how has it shifted your process?
I think for me, it's kind of like because we tour so much, and when I literally been on the road for 20 something years, this is our
25th anniversary.
25th anniversary of being Universes, and we've been on the road for the bulk of it. This is a time to really kind of sit down for a while and really be able to hear yourselves in a completely stripped down way. I've written more during this time that I've written in the past couple of years. Like some of my best writing is coming out now. I feel like just being able to strip away a lot of the sort of distractions that happen and really be able to really
distractions.
That was like right on cue too.
Yeah. and really being able to just really kind of focus on what I'm hearing and really being able to take a look at, to be honest with you, our journey to get here and really beginning to genuflect about it all. Like, what am I doing? Where am I? What are we doing? Where do we want to be? What don't we want to be? What are we tired of being? All of that stuff is really come to light now.
How about you, Mildred?
For me, I've been, you know, really trying to explore this, you know, this idea of using photography and film, and just like really trying. I've been diving into that. I've always wanted to do it. I've always kind of done it in the backgrounds. I'm always taking pictures. I'm always doing. But this time I've been like, oh, you know what? Let me actually just tell these stories this way, and not worry about how my hair is looking. You know, I don't have to be on screen or in the photo, but really just, you know, digging into educating myself a little bit more on those mediums, and kind of taking myself to school a little bit. Creating more, trying to, you know, create music, trying to write more songs, and trying to, you know, of course we're still writing plays, right? So we have a lot of plays that are still on deck from, you know, before the pandemic. So we're just really dive into these projects that we have had on hold for a while, and also dive into things that we've always wanted to, that we're curious, like, you know, what's going to feed my soul right now? I need to learn something new, you know? And wherever you have the space and time, like there's a big pause right now. And of course it's a scary pause. I want this pause, but it's like, okay, well now this is me with myself. Who am I with myself? You know, who am I as an individual, and how do I want to grow? Who do I want to become? You know, no matter how old you are, you never stop learning. So I think that's kind of the attitude we've been taking in this house, whereas like Steve has been honing his skills, I've been honing mine, and just been like, who do I want to be when I grow up? You know,
it's like it's really getting your game really kind of tight, and really kind of going in the woodshed. I don't know if you know the story about there's an old sort of story about Miles Davis when he first came to New York and he got strung out and he went back to St. Louis. He locked himself in the barn and he didn't come out till he kicked. And in a way, this is kind of our barn, and we're in here, you know, really kind of kicking, and there's exorcism, and we're watching a lot of stuff on TV. You know, it's like just everything is sort of really kind of coming out, and opposed to being on the run all the time. It's a nice change of pace.
For sure. Let's back up just a little bit, because you all sort of blossomed out of a very important scene that was going on in New York in the 90s, right? This spoken word poetry music scene with the New Yorican Poets Cafe, and when things were real, it was a really like a golden era in terms of culture in New York. What was it like to be a part of that, and then to come out of that? You know,
it's almost a dream. And when I say a dream, in terms of everybody who was around, when you look back and like in terms of who everybody turned into, we were all sitting around each other at the same time, just being. And
Like who? Like who? Can you describe?
Not the name.
You know, obviously, you know, between us, Will Power, Danny Hawk,
Sarah
Jones, Camilla Forbes, Chadwick Boseman, Jonesy D, you know
Mark
what I mean?
Bermuti Joseph.
Oh, it was Rod Goddess.
Rod Goddess.
You know what I mean? It was a lot of us in here. Carl Hancock Rux. We were really grinding and just kind of working, like just kind of being around each other. And then there were those who were older who were around games.
Yes.
So Sanchez, Amir Rocca, Steve Cannon from the New York. These people really kind of, and Luis Reyes Rivera,
Willie Perdomo.
Oh, word up. Okay. Yeah.
And if you leaned forward, they would lean forward to you.
Yeah.
Which means like every time we went up as a crew, especially, you know, doing the poetry nights or whatever, and the poets would be sitting there, they would be like this, like, what are y'all really doing? And
they take us to task.
And they would take you to task. Like they would talk to you afterwards, like, I don't know what that was. Or
you gotta do something. That's not it.
They would like,
man, let me tell you something. People are soft nowadays. Everybody got to build up their armor, because when we were growing up, we had armor, and that was built up because the people, these folks, they didn't play. They did not play when it came to our artwork. They would critique us on the street. They would critique us while we were on stage.
So being around it, and I also want to give a shout out to Ian Friday, who had the Brooklyn Tea Party, Paul Williams, you know, and those folks. It was kind of like for us, we had a van, and we would rehearse in the van. So we would drive to segments of New York City, sit in the car, and just start doing this. And somebody started singing a song.
That was our rehearsal room.
And somebody would do it. And then we would get in it. Then we would drive the van to the New Eurekan, park it in the front.
Yep.
Find out when they were going to put us on. We would either go in and perform, you know, do what we need to do. And then people, you know, would clap. And then we'd walk off. And then we'd go in the van and be like, all right, that sounded like that. That sounded like that. That sounded like that.
What worked? What didn't work?
What didn't work. And then we would come back on like 2 days later, 3 days later with the same piece. And tweak it.
We would workshop it.
And we would city and pretty much do that. And so we were students of it. We were in the middle of it, and it was alive in terms of the, I don't want to say competition, because it wasn't competition, but if you was at a read and it was like, oh, you better come correct tonight, or so-and-so's gonna run over you, or someone's gonna do this. And so every time we came as a group, we knew we had to be fresh. We knew we wanted to tear the room down. I mean, we used to have a saying, and I'll say it, that we used to start our set with. We used to go, we come here to be your friend. We came here to kick your ass. We used to say that, right? Like, straight up.
That's such a New York song. You know?
Yes, straight up. And it was dope, because it really was. I mean, the first time, you know, to really, I remember like the first couple of hip hop theater festivals that was going on that Danny Hawk was putting up at PS 122, and everybody who was in the room, and it was just kind of like, I remember just looking around going, nobody don't know who we are, but you know, but damn it, right in this room is, we killing it. You know what I mean? Like it was dope. It was a family of artists kind of working.
And we knew we were doing something that was a little different than everybody else, right? Like you have people doing, like some people were doing straight up theater, some people were doing poetry. So everybody was kind of like in the line of, you know, what their field was. And here we come and we're trying to mix all of it, right? And the thing about that time was that there were no rules, and you could do whatever you wanted to do, right? Like nobody was sitting there telling you, oh, well, these aren't the rules of musical theater, you know? It's like, we are musical theater because we singing and we performing and we doing some monologues and some scenes and things. Ergo, we are musical theater. So
word up.
Like we were making our own rules, and we were living the way we wanted to live, and learning from each other. That was actually the really important thing. Like you walk in and you see Danny Hawk, and you see in the same night, same bill, I think it was Danny Hawk and John Leguizamo, right?
Yeah.
So you go into PS 122 and you have Danny Hawk and John Leguizamo, and you sit there like a you know, you're just like, what on earth, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just say, and I just want to say this because Danny's my man. But when we went to see that show, and it was John Leguizamo was the headline, and it was sort of Danny Hawk. So we go to PS 122. John Leguizamo does his joint, and it was dope. And we sort of sitting there, and in between, they were telling people you can leave, but we sat there. So we were there when Danny walked in the room. So Danny comes in the room and puts music on, and he's playing hip hop, and I'm like, he's playing Mobb Deep. He's playing. I'm like, I said, this dude knows, and so we were like, let's kind of sit and wait. And so we were waiting, and when he came out and started his drum, I was like, who's that dude? Yeah. Like, who's that? You know what I mean?
That was jails, right?
No, that was Some People. That was like the early days of Some People.
Okay. Yep. Classic.
He had a whole. It was just for our ear. It was like, no, he knows. He's tapped into something, and we wanted to like just be where he was or follow. Like, what is this dude?
Of course,
doing?
we were all measuring. Like, let's see.
You know what I mean? Like, if he's really like, about it or what? And
what is it?
He totally was, and he, in terms of John Leguizamo and him, for us, he blew the whole room up. You know what I mean? It was like we were left like going, "Who's that?"
And he wasn't necessarily from our neighborhoods and our community and our, our type, but he was telling our truth, and that's all that mattered to us at that time. It was like, yes,
and we became like we're like fam. Like we're family from that. And that was the first time we ever saw him. So it's those were the days of really kind of like everybody was new and out here and young and
free.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank y'all for just painting this just vivid picture of a beautiful era, man. We're gonna close out with one last question before we move on to our next phase. Mm-hmm. How did y'all meet? What is that story? You know what I'm saying? Like what's yeah.
Like go ahead, I got that.
Okay, she laughs. So
it was 32 years ago on October. Well, no, like 32 years ago.
Like just the other day. Our anniversary the other day.
Yeah, we just had an anniversary.
But you wanted stuff from
you. Go ahead, do things.
Well, the first day I had they had invited me to stay an extra semester at Bard to work on a play. Like I was like, I finally figured out this is what I want to do, and I was on HEOP, so I had like one more year eligibility, so I stayed. So the first day of school of this, this extra year I'm going to stay, and I come to the desk of the HEOP office to sign my papers, and I walk up, and the guy Alex McKnight, who was running HEOP, goes, "Oh, Steve, what's up? What's up?" And he goes, "I want to introduce you to this new freshman. Her name is Mildred." And she's sitting down and she's writing, and she lifted her head up. And I'm just gonna keep it real, fellas. I'm gonna keep it real. I was like, I was stuck, and the first thing that popped in my mind was, I'm a bum. Like I had on sweatpants and the whole joint. I was
cute.
like,
he looked handsome.
There we go. You got the right one.
Yeah. I stood there for a second, and I was kind of like nodding and like listening to her talk, and then I walked away. And my boy who drove me up, I was like, "Yo, I just met this girl, and I'm a bum. Look how I look. Look how I look. There's nowhere in the world. I'm a bum." And so, jump to maybe a month or two later, and I was putting a show together through Bard College for my senior project called Purgatory, and all I knew was a director is supposed to have a table, and I had to have an assistant. So I had a table and I had an assistant, and I'm sort of sitting there, and different people are coming to audition, and Mildred walks in the room, and I'm sitting there with my assistant. I go, "Yo, it's that girl from the first day of school." And I was like, "Yo, I got to put her in the show." Right. So then I sat back and I'm like this, and she started singing, and I was like, "Oh." So then I leaned over to him. I was like, "It don't make no difference anything now. Like she's in the show. Like she's just incredible."
Makes you feel like I didn't actually come through, right? I was just in.
No, she was dope. She was dope, and we became obviously friends and lovers and things of that nature. But it really was the impetus. That was the impetus of it. Like we were working around the show, and her energy was really dope, and we just became really cool. Like as going through the process of creating, a piece from scratch, it was just, we bonded that way.
Yeah. I mean, it just made sense. Like I sang a Spanish song, right? So I was like, I don't even know. I didn't come in with a monologue. I didn't come in with anything theatrical. I came in with a song, and like, that's when it made sense that it was like, oh, this is the kind of work I want to make. This is, like Steve was just like, yeah, okay, come sing your song. You know, let's do this, and that's where we started creating the Universe's aesthetic. Was in college, where it's like, whoever's in the room, your voice is valid and valuable, and what is it you want to bring? So, you know, we've been working and living and loving together for 32 years now since then, you know, and yeah, it's just been beautiful.
It's been beautiful.
It is beautiful. Well, thanks for sharing that story. Y'all were basically doing devised theater before, you know, folks were calling it devised theater. That's
yes.
That
so we don't do devised theater, right? Devised theater is I don't really know what it is. But somebody tell me what devised theater is. Like, you know, you bring one person brings a group of people together, right? Or it's devised, like you plan to construct something. One of the things we've always called ourselves is an ensemble theater company. That's why we point to the network of ensemble theaters. We point to the National Performance Network, because those are where our roots are, right? And the work that we were creating was so organic. It wasn't like, okay, guys, you know, this is going to be a theater, has an idea, a director then comes and gathers all these people to come. It's not a writer's room. It's like, it feels like a devised. It feels kind of like in film. It feels more like a film term where you have the writer's room. You know what I'm talking about?
I do.
So that's why kind of like I'm like always trying to like, I guess we devise work, but it's also became a way of people who don't do ensemble work to be able to do ensemble work.
Word up.
So, you know, it's always about like, well, fine, call it whatever you want to call it. But I know that we're gonna stick to ensemble work.
For sure. Don't call it devised theater. I stand corrected. I'm gonna call it dope. It's dope. That's what I'm gonna call it.
You call it hip hop theater, Latino theater, Black theater, devised theater, whatever you want to call it. At the end of the day, it's universal.
Yeah, we've been in so many different. We've been in so many different type of rooms and circles who've all had a name or branded us as this, that.
It's all good.
And for us, it's like if you ever came to one of our rehearsals and people have come and people come expecting that it's going to be a whole. It's like, and if we're writing, it's actually boring because we're really kind of like here, or we're hanging out. And so you may be sitting there going, I've been sitting there with them for 3 hours.
And they're eating pizza.
And they're cracking jokes, laughing and telling stories. That's exactly how our rehearsals are.
That's all part of the process.
Yep.
Word up. Well, yo, let's move on to our top 5. So in the hip hop tradition, you know what I'm saying? Instead of top 5 MCs, peace, Nick. We are gonna have y'all give us your top 5 theater productions, and these can be pieces that you created or were in, or that you saw. Top 5 each of you.
Woo. Well, of course, all the Universal pieces are my top 5. What you got?
I will go with Noise Funk.
I saw the original.
Top Dog Underdog by Susan Park.
Yes.
Talk Radio by Eric Pagosi.
Ooh, okay.
For Color Girls by Enterprise.
Yes.
Classic.
And I gotta give shout out to my boy because it did move me. Some People by Danny Hop still touches me deeply. Can I have like a little sort of honorable mention?
For sure.
Honorable mentions, gotta go watch the.
Don't say none of mine.
Hold
on, let me say my first.
All right,
so Mama, I Want to Sing, because it's the first one I ever saw, and the one that Black and Blue, because OMG, and it was just music and just all this amazingness. Luis Alfaro's Mojada, because oh my God, incredible! I gotta bring my Latino playwrights up in here and represent. Kiara Alegría Judes is Water by the Spoonful. Matter of fact, the trilogy, but I'm going to compliment to one so I can have more options. American Night by Culture Clash.
Love Culture Clash.
Like wanting to be like Culture Clash, like wanting to, like, you know, we were emulating them. They were some of the people that were inspiring us from across the country. And so now you can do your honorable mentions.
My honorable mentions got to go out to Ghetto Original.
Yes.
Oh,
Original. You know, that show, Jam on the Groove. And I also gotta give a shout out to Passing Strain by Stu. Totally, you know, took us there. So that's our top 10.
I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot, right?
That's a rich feat, right? Nick got the text right there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
But
Well,
there's a lot. You know what I mean? There's almost too much, but that's our top.
So if we forgot, please charge it to our head and not our heart.
So all good. So that's a rich list. So now we're gonna move on to some Q&As from the audience, and while we're compiling those, I'm gonna give a little shout out to a piece that I've recently written, and that's gonna premiere next week, October 25th through. That's right down there through the first at Mosaic Theater. So this is a joint called Dear Maple, and it's a series of letters to my deceased father. I'm working with Natsu Onata Power, an incredible director, and we're dealing with this hybrid space as well. So we have some video elements, and we're live capturing things, and then we'll stream it. So we're experimenting in this form as a lot of artists are. So along with the universes, I'm also exploring some new terrain. So please check that out.
Got my ticket.
Word up. So we have questions here. You know what? There's a question that somebody has about your dog that I was gonna.
Right, we just gonna show the dog.
Yeah, please.
She gotta get her screen time.
What kind of dog is it? Oh, a cute dog.
She's a cute dog. She comes from New York. She's a New York dog. We transferred over here, but she's just a Maltese mixed with a mini pincher. Even though she don't look like her dad, but she's a mixed race dog.
Her name is Echo. And it's a nice for me. It's just having someone like a nice sort of partner in crime.
I would have done her hair if she knew she was gonna be a lady.
Actually, that's on the show. So
I heard that.
And another question from Lori McCants. Are y'all finding a way to perform in these pandemic times? We talked a little bit about that, but what's going on with the performances? Can you give us any specifics? Or
we have a couple of projects that we're developing now, and we're just gonna be filming them. We got a couple of plays that we're commissioned to write, and for us, we write in sections. I think we're gonna just in the post to just keep it to ourselves. Almost like a video, just sort of just put material out. I'm always writing. I got a lot of poetry and stuff and books, and we got a lot of people we work on. So we just honestly be flooding the airwaves with material.
Yeah.
New material, even some old material, just making sure it's available to folks.
Yeah, we kind of like how we used to walk into that poetry spot and drop a piece and then like walk out. And so I think we'll do it. We'll just do it live, and people can comment and say what they're feeling about it, and we'll bring it back.
Yeah.
And see what happens. Get and bring it back.
Yeah.
Word up. We have a couple more questions I think we have time for. So who's your favorite theater artist that nobody has heard of?
Ooh, good question.
Nobody's heard of. And nobody's heard of. That's hard.
Or somebody who hasn't gotten the shine that you're like, yo, y'all need to know about this person or these cats.
Gotta give a dope shout out to somebody.
Oh yeah, like this is a big
one.
This ain't the official cosign, y'all.
It is though.
Okay, well, I'll let that one.
Yeah, let that one.
Because yeah. So, but
there's so many artists that are so incredible that we worked with.
But yeah, let's marinate. We'll
come back to it.
Yeah. So, what's one of the most humbling experiences you've had since starting Universes that you could look back on now after 25 years?
All right, I have one. I have a quick story. We were doing Party People here at the Urban Shakespeare Festival, and we had invited Fred Hampton Jr. to come to see the show. Now, Fred is a serious dude. You know what I mean? Like, Fred is not joking. So right before we meet Fred, and he comes to meet us for dinner, and he has somebody with him. So we're sitting there, and we're talking, and I'm looking at the person going, that looks like the Lady of Rage. with him, but she doesn't say anything. The entire time we're sitting, she doesn't say anything. At the end of the night, we're leaving and we're getting up, and I lean over to her and I go, I appreciate what you've contributed to hip hop. Thank you. And she turned like, thank you so much. Like, it was such a dope moment to watch her embrace that. So long story short, we invite Fred to the show. Fred is watching the show, and he had told us the night before that he hates people talking about his father without even really being around or everybody acting like they were there. So I hear you, cool. So we're doing the show, and I can see him from the stage, like looking really serious, because we have a whole section on his father. Show's over. We're doing talkback, and the old white man raises his hand and goes, I knew Fred Hampton, right? And I can see Fred Jr. look like from the audience, and he like his face is not happy. So I'm like, uh-oh. So the guy goes, my name is Skip Andrews. Now, Skip Andrews was Fred Hampton Sr.'s lawyer when he was murdered. The one that brought up sort of the trial and was telling everybody where the bullets was this man, who was an old man who was now living in Ashland, Oregon, of all places. So Fred is like walking. So Nick and I are sitting doing the talk back, and we're saying we have to get to Fred before Fred gets to this dude, because Fred don't look happy.
Right.
We're doing the talk back and we're talking, and it ends, and Fred makes a beeline for Skip, and Ninja and I jump up to get him, but the audience met us there, so they're talking to us, and we're trying to get past them to stop Fred from getting to Skip Andrews. We don't make it. He beats us there, and that just as we all meet there, Skip Andrews looks at Fred and goes, I remember you in your mother's belly.
Wow.
And Fred stopped. He like paused.
What?
And they had a whole conversation standing there. And no one else around completely understood what that moment was. And then the usher, got everybody else out the theater. And those two men stood there and had a conversation in the theater for another 20 minutes to a half hour. And we were just witness to this moment in our history as revolutionaries and things like that, and watch these two men have this really deep conversation and meet for the first time really in the theater. And the show that we put together was brilliant. It was beautiful, and it was completely humbling in terms of like, wow, all we were really trying to do is this, and this moment happened that was completely unscripted, and we were in the presence of it. It was truly, truly humbling and beautiful.
And that's what it spawned. Hey, that's a powerful, powerful, beautiful story to end out our salon and to close our time together. So thanks again.
You're an artist? You're an artist?
Oh, yes, please do.
I've been working on it.
Yes.
All right, so this is an artist that I think we can, and he is known in some circles, and he's gonna be known, but he should be huge, right? He should be huge. His name is Christopher Livingston, and he played the lead in Party People. Let me tell you something. Chris Livingston can do everything that universes can do, right? And hasn't even begun to tap into half of the stuff that I know he must be capable of. And he is a wonder to watch at work. He's so meticulous at how respecting his craft. And Christopher Livingston, I'm gonna give a shout out to because and because he's not in universes. Otherwise, I'd be throwing out every single universe saying this one, and this one. But if I must choose an outside of universes, but universes adjacent artist that I think should be famous is Christopher Livingston.
I'll second that emotion.
Word up. Well, that's another great way to close out the episode, shouting out an artist who deserves the love. Yeah. Thanks again to Universes for joining us. Incredible. Big ups to the Doris Duke Charitable Trust Foundation for helping us, for supporting us with this. Thanks to HowlRound TV for streaming us. Of course, everyone in studio, theater. Make sure you check out the next Salon on November 20th. At 5 p.m., we'll be joined by New Play Warriors, Wendy C. Goldberg, Idris Goodwin, and Brian P. Hotter. You don't want to miss that. They're all collaborators, they're friends, and they all love hip hop too. So you know we gotta have them on the show. Once again, course, Nick Wonder every time. Big ups, Nick. Thanks for the tunes. And check out the link below for a curated Spotify list from Nick Wonder. And everybody, go ahead and grab your drinks and we can all vibe out. Universes, much love. Much love to y'all.
Yes, love
and much love to Psalm. Thank you, Psalm.
Do the things.
Every time, y'all. Every time.
Much love, brother. Yes, yes.
Ha.
What? Yeah, we partying for real,